Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this April 10th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. We are so glad you're here on this Tuesday morning. You can find all of our content Thursday.
Yeah,
I missed Tuesday, yeah. And I said it so deliberately.
Yeah,
too,
I know. You're heart set on it being Tuesday. I'm like, no, it ain't Tuesday. No.
On this Thursday morning, yeah, I had a couple of days off yesterday and the day before. It's been really good, feeling rejuvenated to be back. Glad that you're here with us. You can find all of our content at eoa.network. That takes you to a link tree where you can find the locations of our Facebook, YouTube, Roku channel, website. And if you want to tip us for a cup of coffee and help support us, we'll take it there also. Got a good show for you today. Here in just a little bit, we are going to have LeGrand Police Chief Gary Bell and LeGrand Fire Chief Emmitt Cornford are going to be with us. It'll be a lively discussion, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
How are you, man?
It's first Friday. It's not second Monday. First Friday. I'm like, Tuesday. Is it really Tuesday? I had to check in my brain.
Did you
fast.
yeah.
I'm like, it's not. No, it can't be Tuesday. It's because we didn't have a show on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all good though. Yeah, it's the weather's starting to get nice.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. Very happy.
So I went over and saw Brady in Portland.
Yeah.
He actually lives in Westland, and then Tuesday, we did like a total nerd day and went to the airplane museum, out there by Tillamook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I mean, we drove by there. I've driven by there.
Isn't it in McMinnville now?
It's in McMinnville.
Yeah, it's in McMinnville. Yeah. There's a water park there too?
Yeah. It's like they've got this Boeing 747 is I mean, I thought that was a really interesting. I mean, the water park, it's clearly an airplane-themed water park.
Right.
Yeah.
That museum did used to be in Tillamook, though. They moved it.
Did it?
I think so.
Maybe that's
Yeah, I think it used to, because Tillamook's not that close to McMinnville.
Okay.
It's hour and a half towards the
further.
And up and towards the coast.
Okay.
A little bit, but I think that they had that airplane museum in Tillamook at one time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, actually.
No, but super fascinating. Yeah, and it was and they have the spruce goose there, which is like really interesting.
Wooden airplane, right?
A wooden airplane made by Howard Hughes, and I think he made it like in the late 30s or something like that.
I don't have much interest in airplanes, things that go up in the air, because I don't like them.
Well, I tell you what was also is like they have three big buildings, but I think the airplanes are just in two of them, and the second one was space flight, and so they had a life-size replica of the moon rover, and
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they and it was the history of space flight, and so they had, and then in that one also they had the SR-71, the fastest airplane. Yeah, I mean, it had a retired one of those, which is like super.
I wonder how many.
They had a stealth fighter in there.
How fast that thing goes? Mach something.
Yeah, I think it's
Did it say
over 3,500 miles an hour, somewhere like
man,
that.
That's flying.
Yeah, just crazy.
That's flying.
So anyhow, so it was we just were totally geeked out. I mean, and Brady and I said that a couple of different times. It's like, had his girlfriend or my wife would have been with us, it'd be like, come on, are we ready to move on?
That's when you tell them to go shopping.
Yeah.
Run along, go. There's places to shop in. I like downtown in McMinnville. Yeah. Did you guys go downtown at all?
No.
You just stayed out on the outskirts?
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it was a really good day. And
downtown McMinnville is very nice. They've done a really good job there.
And then we got back to his house, and then he took me for a genuine smash burger. We were talking about that the other day.
What's a genuine smash
Well, I had a smash burger a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago.
It wasn't really smashed?
It wasn't really smashed, yeah.
It's got to be crispy and flat.
And it was. That's exactly, And it was kind of funny because he said, well, I take you to a food truck that we want to, and I'm like, I'm not really excited about eating on my lap, but I thought, okay.
I get so excited about food trucks in Portland because they're so good.
Well, here was the cool thing so there was this bar, essentially, but they didn't cook food themselves. The
had a
food
food
truck did.
Yeah, we did that with the tap house.
Yeah. And so then you'd order at the food truck. They give you a little pager, and you go into the bar, and then then you bring the food. Yeah. So it was a really nice. I mean, what a really interesting business combination.
Yeah, it's actually pretty common.
Well, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could do that at Tap That before they got their menu too.
Yeah.
Well, because there's laws in Oregon, like when it comes to serving alcohol, you have to have a certain amount of food available
Right.
at all times.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so like a lot of the tap houses that are just tap houses on the west side,
Right. They
they'll
depend on the food
they'll-
truck. Yeah.
they'll have either a restaurant right next door, or they'll have the
Well, and
ability
from the
to-
standpoint of like that kind of a business, I mean, if you could just focus on beer and somebody else focused on
you
the
don't
kitchen part of cooking and all that,
you don't make any money off the food. You
Yeah.
make the money on the beer.
do you?
Oh, what the profit on beer is stupid compared to food. It's not even in the same ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I percentage wise, I want to say you make right around 400% on beer,
Huh.
which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, food.
That's not a bad
In order to
business
make
model.
400% on food, you'd have to buy the ingredients for
Yeah.
like less than or right around $5, and make $20 off of that, whatever those $5 ingredients are. Because
Yeah.
you're buying a keg for say 200,
Yeah.
and you'll sell that keg for 1,000.
You know,
800
the other thing
altogether.
was the smash burger was reasonably priced. I mean, that was I would have expected to pay a lot more.
Yeah, and unlike some places around here where burgers are $23. I'm not going to mention
Yeah.
where.
Yeah.
$23 for a burger?
Yeah. All right. Hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Northwest Furniture and Mattress was established in 2014 by a father and son duo, Mike and Sean Daggett. This Saturday, April 12th through the 3rd of May, they're celebrating their 10-year anniversary with a sale. 10% off all regular items, excluding Tempur-Pedic, or 12, 24, 36-month lease, depending on amount spent. Help them celebrate, and every purchase made during that time will go into a drawing to have your invoice paid. Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Big Red Rocking Chair on Elm off Adams in LeGrand. EOU Baseball hosts Corbin this weekend with a doubleheader on Saturday starting at 1 and Sunday at 11. If you don't have anything going on, go get down there to Optimist and enjoy some EOU baseball. There's definitely a little buzz around this team just because they've already won more conference games this year than they have since the baseball was brought back. This team's pretty exciting, and they're fun to watch. There's just a different level of energy, like it's crazy the amount of influence a coach has on a team, but you'll see it with EOU. It's pretty cool. EOU softball is also at home this weekend with a huge 4-game set versus Carroll. The Mounties look to expand their lead in the CCC, which is they currently sit in first place in. They're 17-1 in the best conference in the country, and I'll say that again. You have the number 1 team, the number 2 team, the number 11 team, and the number 20 team in the country. And EOU is at the very top of that list. They're not number 1 in the country. They should move into the top 10 on the next poll, which will come out, I want to say the 16th of April. I would be really surprised if you don't see EOU move into the top 10 after taking 3 out of 4 and 3 out of 3 conference games versus number 20 College of Idaho last weekend. And then they have Carroll at home. They go to Bush now, and then they end the season right here against number 1 Southern, and that's going to be a great series, man. I can't wait for that. If you want to watch some good softball, this is the place right here. EOU's really legit softball team. LHS baseball opened up with GOL play yesterday afternoon with a doubleheader versus Baker. The first game was awesome. It was a pitching duel. Pennington for LeGrand through, I think, the first 5 innings. LeGrand ended up squeaking that one out 3-2. and got their first GOL win of the year. In the second game, the LeGrand rallied late. They were down 6-0 in the late innings. I think they put 1 on the board in the 6th, and then they got 4 in the 7th, but came up just short, 6-5. So they start the league out 1-1. They go to Fruitland on Saturday for a non-league doubleheader. LHS softball kept their record perfect, 13-0 with an easy doubleheader sweep in their GOL opener with the Bulldogs. I saw some comments online from, like, I'm not going to say who made the comments, but obviously a Baker fan, saying, like, hey, they should be ranked higher. They're going, they're going to go beat LeGrand. And I'm thinking to myself, after watching that game a couple nights ago, like, no, they're not going to beat LeGrand this year. I hate to say it. The girls' bats were the star of the show. They won the first game 11-3, and the second 12-2. They head to Lewiston on Saturday for a non-league doubleheader with the Bengals starting at 1. LHS Track and Field has their one home event of the season this Saturday. I was told that everything kicks off at 10. I think that's the field events, and then the track events start at noon. So if you don't have anything going on Saturday, get up there to the LHS track and watch these young athletes. I like watching track. It's kind of fun. I didn't used to. My oldest daughter did track, and her events were so spaced out that the time in between is like hard to, like you can't really leave and come back. I mean, you could, I guess, but now I've just become a fan of other events, so I watch them all now. That's all I got for you. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Don't forget this Saturday through May 3rd, 10-year anniversary sale. So get down there and check out their showroom. They want to make you comfortable in your own home.
Good stuff. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look outside. There it is. It's beautiful, man. And it was
I can live with that.
Yeah, just really nice sunshine. Beautiful this morning.
It was like that. Yeah, it was nice yesterday, too.
Yeah.
I recharged my batteries.
No, I know. I got home yesterday afternoon, and it was like just wonderful. So, yeah, and let's look at that weather graphic. Yep, so 75 today. Clear, cloudy tonight, but it looks like it's going to be, a little bit cloudy tomorrow, a little bit more overcast, but especially going into next week, it's...
No rain through the whole weekend,
Yeah.
which is perfect because there's a lot of sporting events outdoors here this weekend.
Yep. All right, good stuff.
Yep.
All right, well, hey, thank you guys. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back in just a minute with Emmitt and Gary, LeGrand Fire Chief and Police Chief. Be a great conversation. We'll be right back.
Eastern Oregon is full of interesting people, with interesting minds and interesting things to say. Here at EO Live, we're committed to connecting you to these intriguing people with EO Talks. We let our special guests share their ideas and life experiences with deep, open, engaging, and inquisitive conversations. You'll also be informed in depth on some of the most recent and relevant events, issues, and more. EO Talks on EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon, now on Roku.
Baseball parent.
All right, we're back. That was quick, but hey. Thank you guys. Hey, welcome you guys. Glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, we're not. Are we? Yeah. Okay, good. We are. Sorry, we didn't have our normal sequence when we're coming back, and we get a countdown, and so yeah. So hey, good to have you guys. Yeah, and just thrilled that you are here. So
It's good to be had, Brent.
yeah,
First time for
First
Yeah.
time.
on the show.
yeah. And this
He's a
was
veteran.
this was your idea, Gary, which was awesome. Thank you so much. You know.
That sounds like a setup for blame.
yeah.
Just in case.
Well, yeah, it kind of depends on how Emmitt does. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, this could be your fault.
Now I'm feeling the pressure.
Well, Emmitt, we've talked to Gary quite a bit, and we know kind of his story. You've been here a long time. I mean, why don't you tell us how you got into the firefighting business? Kind of give us a thumbnail version of your life, and you've been retired a couple of different times. I think you said only once, but
Yeah.
you keep coming, you
I've
keep
been
rolling
back a
into this
couple of
position.
times,
Yeah.
yeah.
So start at the beginning and kind of bring us up to speed.
Well, in the beginning, I actually used to work at C&M Farm Supply there in Island City. It was kind of strange. One day, a customer came through and mentioned that LeGrand had a volunteer fire department, which I didn't know. I just assumed they were all.
And when was this?
1980.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably in May or June. Anyway, I had a conversation with him. Later that day, I went home. We had gotten married that July, and so I got home, and my neighbor came over to introduce himself. And that same evening, he let me know that LeGrand had volunteers and asked me if I wanted to join. So I kind of took that as a sign. But anyway, I joined up as a volunteer in September, and then the following July they had openings for full-time positions, and I applied and was lucky enough to get chosen. So I joined in July of 1981, and was a firefighter about 5 years. Then I got promoted to engineer, and I drove the engine for about 5 years. And then I became a shift captain and did that for somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 years.
20. Okay.
Yeah. Then in 2016, I decided to retire, and I had been the acting chief for about 10 months prior to that. I left in May of 2016, thinking I was retired, and they hired a new chief. He was here about a year and left. So the city manager asked me if I'd come back and fill in, so I filled in for, I believe, about 4 months. And we hired another chief. In about another year, I got another call back from the city manager and asked if I'd come back. So my wife is very supportive and understanding.
Yeah.
So I came back with the intention of about 6 months, and we're still counting. So
Yeah. Wow. So how long is this last stint been?
it would be 6 years in July.
So this time when
6
you
months
retire,
turned to 6
are you
years.
going to change your phone number?
Yeah, no, I just really want them. The department it's just been a blessing to me, and it's my home. I grew up. I started when I was 19 there, so I just have a heart for the place.
Yeah.
And it's been a fantastic career, and so we'll just see what the future holds.
Yeah.
I do look forward to retirement, though.
Yeah.
A little more golf.
So between the police and the fire department, I mean, what percentage of the city budget do you think that is? I mean,
Well, I think
30%, 40?
I think that you have to, of the general fund.
Right, yeah.
Because we have enterprise funds.
Oh, that's
that
right, yeah.
Basically, provide the operating dollars for all of our public works departments, like wastewater
Yeah.
and things like
And
that.
that's expensive.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money in those enterprise funds, but the police and fire departments are both funded out of the general fund, and I think a lot of people are aware, but budgets primarily are 90% ish personnel,
Right.
and between the police and the fire department, we have more employees than any of the other general fund
Yeah.
departments. So it's a pretty significant portion of the general fund dollars goes to public safety.
Yeah, and my point is not necessarily how expensive it is, but it's just how critical it is. That cities spend money on police and fire because it's the very foundation of what. I mean, you can have a great city But if your building's burned down or you don't have public safety, it's part of public safety. It's just the very foundation of what makes a city livable, you know.
I think the chief could probably speak to this better, but I think an important part of that is to include EMS.
Right.
Because that's a service that I think we all understand how important it is. We hope to never have to call and need
Yeah.
an ambulance, but if we do, I mean, we need one to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so Emmitt, help me understand kind of the history of EMS. Was that always a part of the fire department, and how has that kind of evolved over the years?
No, it's not always been a part of the fire department here in LeGrand. So
Okay.
from the time I hired on until about 2002, the ambulance was at the hospital. It was a privately run service. In 2002, there was conversations with the hospital, and the fire department took the ambulance service then. We, at the time, I think we hired 3 of their paramedics to come down. We had some paramedics on staff. And so the last 23 years, we've run the ambulance service. We've increased the number of vehicles that are available. We can cover easily 3 calls at a time. Many times we can do 4 with callback. We've increased the number of paramedics that we have. We currently have 10, and we have 5 in the making right now. So I would say that the services, it's fantastic. I mean, we have a bunch of smart individuals. They're very good at what they do. 80% of what we do at the fire department is EMS.
Mm-hmm.
So we respond, our ambulances respond everywhere in all of Union County, which is 2,050 square miles. So
Wow.
that's a big area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger than Rhode Island.
Well, how did you learn that? Where did you hear that from?
I learned that when you just research things and
Yeah.
and so, but it is a big area and so a call can easily take a couple of hours if you head way out Palmer Junction, or we'll head up towards Wallowa.
Yeah.
And there's portions like clear to Meacham that we have a mutual aid with the tribe, and with Pendleton Fire we cover to Meacham even though it's outside the city limits or the county line.
So what is that? Give me an idea of how that evolving in the fire department has changed management. Because managing firefighters, I would imagine that's pretty different. Managing firefighters versus managing EMS, or are they blended together?
They're all blended, so everybody in the department is cross-trained as
Okay.
firefighters and EMTs.
Okay.
So their minimum requirement are EMTs, which is the basic level. Then we have a couple that are intermediate level, and then we have paramedics.
Okay.
And so they're all cross-trained. So supervision is really not any different.
Okay.
There's some different facets to the business portion of it, because there's ambulance billing and Medicare rules and some of those things that go along with that. But
So, and then you have the equipment to handle whatever might come in. Hopefully you have the equipment to handle whatever the need is, whether that is on the far extreme of the fire side or the far extreme of EMS in one manner.
yeah, that's one of the things I think a lot of people don't know or realize about a fire department our size is everybody in our department is cross-trained to do fire, EMS. They do hazmat, they do rescue, we have a water rescue team. We have members that are part of the SWAT team and go in as medical providers on the SWAT team. So they have to wear a lot of different hats at any given time. If I was an engine captain in a big city, that's what I do every day. I ride the engine. They get very proficient at that. But so they kind of have to be a jack of all trades. And so there's a lot of training involved in that. A lot of, you just don't know what's going to be the next call.
Yeah.
I think that would be funner. Like,
I find it, I love the challenge of it, and it is a challenge just to keep up on the training and be proficient to be able to go do those things.
yeah, for
But,
sure.
yeah, I like the fact that there's some variety in it.
Yeah.
So what do you, of all of those things, what of those things do you really enjoy personally?
Oh, I would say across the board at the fire department, this sounds bad. Most of us enjoy fighting fire.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what you
rescues-
prepare for, right?
Rescues, we'll have extrications where you extricate people out of cars. Those are always technical. And I guess bottom dollar is it's just nice to be able to help people
Right.
when they're having a terrible day, to be able to make that day better.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can only do so much, but in every instance, we just feel like, it's the ability to help.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you can think of that what people might not know about the fire department? They take for granted, or anything else that you can think of?
Well, I just think we're similar to the police department in the fact that people expect us to be there. I think it gives people a comfort level to know that we're available, but a lot of people have never had a direct interaction with the fire department, the ambulance,
Yeah.
or the police department, which is a good thing, right?
Right.
But I don't know if there's things. One thing a lot of people might not know is, like I said, that the fire department actually runs the ambulance service. If we have a number of ambulances out and you call for an ambulance, the fire truck might show up. And sometimes that confuses people.
Right,
But
right.
they're the same people. And
Right.
they're there to help. We carry a minimum amount of equipment on the engine so that people can start care.
Right.
We'll call mutual aid with our rural partners out in Island City, and they may respond. So people sometimes get confused. I've actually been told at the door, I called for an ambulance, not a fire truck. So,
And
the
just
guy-
to explain it to people real quick, the difference is in big cities, the not all big cities, but a lot of them, the ambulance is ran by a private entity like Falk or whoever the ambulance
in a lot of
owner is.
places, even Baker County currently, there's a private contractor that provides the ambulance service. But a lot of departments of all different sizes run EMS.
Do they?
Yeah.
Before you go on, I
Yeah,
got something.
please.
I from a professional partner's perspective, I think that might maybe something that people are unaware of that I think is worth noting about the fire department and the team of people there is just how busy they really are. So I have a kind of a front row seat to see how many calls for service they run, and a lot of those are EMS calls for service. But they're 24-hour operation, and it's been some time since I was working patrol at the police department, but I know that it's the same now, and that is there's a lot of nights those guys down there aren't getting much sleep because they're running calls all night.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so that's one thing maybe the public doesn't know is our crew, we have three shifts of 6 people, and they run a 48-96 schedule, so they work 48 hours straight, and then they are off for 96. And so in that 48 hours, there are times when they can catch a nap here and there, but there's very few nights that they don't have calls. And so we average 10 calls a day. And like I said, some of those calls are 2.5 hours a piece.
Wow.
And so we are a busy department.
Yeah.
And that's good. I mean, it's good to be needed and be busy. But
So, a question I've been having, and both of you guys can jump in on this, but it's more often EMS. I mean, if you're a civilian and you're driving, most of the time you're seeing an ambulance or a fire truck, an ambulance that you need to pull over to the side for or whatever. So like on a big highway or a big like Island City, okay, where you've got a fairly divided, do people need to pull off on both sides? What's the preference?
well, I could give you my
Yeah.
side, and then he can probably give you the
Yeah,
legal side.
okay, yeah.
So I actually was just asked this question yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
And so the rule is you pull to the right and stop. And there's 2 portions of that.
Okay.
Because we see quite often where people will pull to the side. I would say in Union County, people are very respectful of that, with some exceptions. But people will pull to the side and then they'll cruise. And a lot of times they're cruising right to the driveway or the turn that we need to make. So that's why we ask you to stop. Even on Island Avenue, I think the rule is made specifically to say pull to the right and stop at all times, so that it's a habit,
And that's in both directions.
both directions.
Okay.
And again, Island Avenue is a good example because essentially there's 5 lanes there, but
Right.
people are really good about pulling over. But if you're on a 2-lane highway and you don't pull over and we have to pass somebody
Right.
and you're coming at us. The other thing is people a lot of times will stop adjacent to each other in opposing lanes, and that makes quite a little tunnel to have to go through. So try not to do
I
that.
mean, I don't care if it's 10 lanes. I think you should be
Yeah.
give that thing as much room as you possibly can, right?
So
Yeah, I think the chief captured it pretty well. I think a couple things I'll add to that is that aside from the law and you know what the rule of law says that we're supposed to do, I think it's good for people just to keep in mind that when you see that emergency vehicle, in this case an ambulance, you know, what would you want if they were coming to your home or to your family's home? And so, you know, it takes a few moments just to yield to the right, give the roadway to that emergency vehicle and let them get on their way. The other piece I think that oftentimes can be confusing for people is, if I'll set the stage with an example of the intersection of Adams and Island. So you're sitting at a traffic light and you hear the sirens, and then you look in your rearview mirror and you see an emergency vehicle, the ambulance coming from behind you. I think sometimes people are confused, like, what am I supposed to do? Because say you're on Island Avenue sitting at Adams, you know, you're heading up in Avenue, but you're sitting at the red light. You can't pull over because you're stopped and there's a car in the outside lane. Here's the thing to do in that situation. Just sit tight. Don't move.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is that emergency vehicle or that ambulance is going to, they're going to come up and they're going to slow to a crawl because they know that it's like, hey, opposing traffic may not see or hear them. But what they're going to do oftentimes, and maybe somebody's even sitting in the turn lane, well, they're going to go way out into the opposite lanes of travel, and then they're going to weave their way through. But what they need everyone to do is just stop.
Stay
Stop
in
where
place,
you're at,
yeah.
let us get through, and then you can proceed about your day. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes people are a little confused about, it's like, what are we supposed to do here?
No, and
just
that's
stay
good.
put.
Yeah, no, that's super good clarification. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the other question I had is, talk to us about how you interface with the other fire districts. You know, how do you guys? I mean, I know that when there's a big enough call, the word just goes out and everybody comes for, you know, but
smoke signals.
yeah, but how do you
Literally.
yeah, but how do you interface if it's a smaller incident? You know, I mean, so let's say there's something out in Elgin, and Elgin has a fire district out there, right?
They do.
Yeah, so just talk to me about how the sequence of that kind of stuff happens.
So we have a system that we've put in place. We've always had a mutual aid agreement. So the chiefs of all the districts in each town in Union County has a fire district. And there are some areas that aren't covered, but majority of Union County is covered. So that mutual aid agreement essentially says that if Elgin has a fire and they need assistance, they call, we come, and there's no charge. Same thing for us. If we have a call and we need assistance, we call and they come. That all goes through the 911 dispatch center. So we've set up a box alarm system to where if LeGrand has a first alarm box, that sends our units, our ladder truck and our engine and an ambulance, and it will also send LeGrand rural units. So LeGrand rural and LeGrand have a actual automatic aid agreement. So anytime we have a structure fire in LeGrand, they're automatically dispatched, and same with their district. The other ones need to be requested. So they get requested through the 911 center, and then they send it out. A lot of us still have pagers. A lot of us have phones that make noise like mine's doing right now. So we can get our alerts on our phone. You can open it up, see where it's at, what the incident is, and then we respond.
They still make pagers?
Yeah, there's still
I
people
haven't
that,
seen one in so long.
yeah, they're quite a bit more compact, and they're much more, you can play back the message and lots of good
Oh,
things.
interesting.
So we have a really good system, and the system with the rural helps provide the manpower we need. We train together with the rural twice a month. We have our SOG standard operating guidelines are written together, and the county we have county EMS drills at our department that everybody comes to once a month. So it's a really cohesive group. Everybody works together really well on the fire and EMS side both.
So like, if there is an incident out in Elgin, they're a volunteer fire department. So people still have to show up there and then move from there. So do you have units that are moving from here and there simultaneously to get to a fire? Or do they arrive and go like, oh, we're gonna need some help, and then they?
Really depends on what they get from dispatch for initial information. So if they get the information that it's fully involved fire, a lot of the chiefs in the smaller areas know, somebody's 3 people out of town, or they know what their response is going to be. So
Right.
as soon as they get on a radio, they may call for assistance quickly.
Yeah.
And so it all depends. A lot of times if it comes in as a small alarm, they'll show up, do an assessment, and then call for additional units.
Okay.
We always try to be ahead of the game, so call for additional units. We can always turn around and go back.
Right.
It's the same thing we do a lot of times with Life Flight that's available here. If we have a serious medical call or crash in some of the outlying areas, we'll call Life Flight, have them head that way, and then we can always turn them around. They're great about that.
Oh. All right. Well, wow. Thanks. So let's talk about the two of you. How did you meet each other? And I mean, Gary, why don't you go first? Kind of.
That's a
tell
good
us-
question.
yeah.
I was just thinking.
Emmitt might
On the street.
remember. I think our families might have known each other before Emmitt and I
Yeah, I actually
knew
did.
each other professionally. I think that my parents knew his family, but then in terms of Emmitt and I started working at the police department in 1993, and Emmitt you were a captain then. Yeah.
He was already a veteran.
He was a
but-
boss. And what I can tell you is over the years, in both Emmitt and I's tenure at the police and fire departments, we have the bond and the relationship between the two departments and the police and firefighters, and we love to rib each other. It's just it's kind of like cats and dogs. I mean, it's natural. It's a natural law, I think, in our world that the police and firefighters, will joke with each other. But we have enjoyed a really good and meaningful relationship between our police and firefighters, and all that equates to better service to our community, because it's pretty frequent when we're actually working together on something. But Emmitt and I mean, we knew, I suppose, I was a new police officer. He was a veteran at the fire department, so we interacted with each other in those days some, but it was probably later in my career when we probably started, communicating more, because he was part of the leadership team at the fire department and I at the police department. But then I have to tell you, personally, and then I'll let Emmitt say what he thinks about our relationship, but after I was appointed the chief, and maybe a little bit when I was the lieutenant, that's when, as the command staff of the two departments, we just interact a lot, and there's a lot of similarities, and I just have, I'm going to tell you guys some stuff that I think most of our community already knows. Emmitt's an incredible man. He's just a wonderful human being. He's a very accomplished leader, very, very competent, and, I will lean on him and ask him, hey, what do you think? Sometimes it can get lonely in, leadership positions, and so it's beneficial to have people that you know and you can trust, and that they're going to give you good, solid advice. And professionally, we work together super well, and there's a whole litany of calls for service that we've had over the last 5 or 6 years that very, very nice to have somebody like Emmitt standing there next to you.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know what Emmitt's got to say about our relationship.
Well, yeah, I would echo the same thing. I think Gary and I just had a casual conversation or relationship when he was a patrolman, and most of the friendship and the closeness has come since we've been chiefs together. And like you said, we've been on calls. It's very nice to know that you can call somebody. I've called Gary at fires where we just need somebody to come a lot of times he'll call me because he sees we have a fire and ask if there's something we can do. I do the same when they have a SWAT call out or some big incidents. So we work together and help that way. It's worked out fantastic. And like Gary said, it's just nice to know you have somebody you can trust
Yeah.
that's there to help. And so, you know, we, along with Jason from the police department and Merle Lacey, who's our deputy chief, we get together once a month and have lunch and commiserate. But it's a really good relationship. And I think that trickles down to the entire group. We have a lot of new firefighters and they have a lot of new police officers. So we're building that back up. A lot of them, I don't know a lot of the new police officers, but those younger crews now are starting to build those relationships that we had along the way. So that's nice to see. But the working relationship has just always been great. My whole career, you know, I'll go to conferences and places and hear people squawk about their police departments and the headbutting, and we just have never had that. I mean, it's a great relationship.
Well, you just have so much common ground,
Yeah.
common motivation, you know, to take care of the citizens of the city and the area. So, yeah, Gary and I talked about, you know, there was a incident at the hospital during the construction, and which was that required an all hands on deck. And was that, you know, from your standpoint, I know from Gary's standpoint that the relationship that you guys all had, and it wasn't just you guys with the sheriff's department, you know everybody in this community. And did you find that to be helpful and a comfort in that kind of situation?
Oh, absolutely. That's the type of thing that for me, you're there, we were there 5-6 hours. You get very vested in a situation like that. And to have Gary and Jason and all of the different people to bounce things off of, we come up with ideas, we talk about the next steps, all those things. Again, it's that comfort level, or it's that ability to have somebody that you trust to end up with such a great outcome was amazing.
Well,
you know,
and go ahead.
Brent, I was just going to tell you that, you know, there's a lot of factors that play into circumstances like that, and there's plenty of others, and some that are I think, less noteworthy. I mean, we've had, you know, in recent years, some pretty significant storm events in LeGrand that, you know, police and fire are working together, but, you know, there's lots of factors that play into outcomes being successful, you know, from our perspective. Training and, you know, lots of other preparation things. But the relationships that, you know, that the chief commented about, how the command staff at the fire and the police department, we get together informally for lunch. But see, those are things where we're building relationship and we interact with each other in a circumstance and a setting where there's not those stressors. So then when we show up together, you know, at a call for service like you described at the hospital or a number of others, having those relationships foundationally makes it so that we can really operate at peak capacity. And, you know, we kind of already know what, you know, the chief probably already knows what I'm thinking and vice versa. We know what we can expect from each other. You know, it just makes it so that all in all, it's just like I said, you know, the training that goes into it. What we're doing in advance is trying to set ourselves up and the community up the best we can, so that when we have these things, that a lot of them, I mean, there's not good solutions, but we're trying to do the best we can to come up with a positive outcome for everyone. And the relationship is huge.
Yeah. And I guess I kind of relate to that because we do the Shrine football game in July. It's toward the end of July. And there's a huge amount of technical preparation that go into that. And part of the fun is that all of those pieces come together during that one thing, you know. And so you hope that nothing comes up that you don't have an answer to or a solution. And so I'm sure that even though what you guys do is way different than that, you know, but you hope that you prepared for almost everything. You know, you're not like, okay, what are we going, you know, how do we, I mean,
Right.
in that particular day, there certainly was a lot of how in the world do we do this? But, you know, I don't know, am I expressing that right? That you're hoping that those systems that you put together, those relationships, that there's something that will be a solution.
I would say on a daily basis, even our crews, on an ambulance call, a rescue call on the highway, any of those things, we have set protocols or set guidelines that they train on, they understand, but every single call has a twist that you haven't seen before, you don't know about.
Yeah.
And so they have to think on their feet, use their training and experience to figure out what is the best answer here. And so it's similar in this. We have a concept of operation to where, you know, we know how the command is going to run. We know the resources we have. We have all those things in place, but you don't know that, you know, what's going to happen next. You have
Right.
to plan ahead with a good educated guess as to what's going to come next.
And that twist could be really small, or it could be catastrophic.
Right.
Like, and that's part of the.
So
part of the,
most of those bases we can plan for, but there's always those things you just can't plan for.
I could liken it to sports in the sense that, you know, you study a team's defense if you're the offense. You prepare in that way. But you don't know, they might throw a little wrinkle in. You know what I mean? And you
famous
just
trick
have to
play,
be
right?
ready for it. Right, yeah. Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
I got something I'll share with you
Yeah.
guys if you're interested that I think that, you know, might be noteworthy to the community, and that is that a lot of times, and you know, over the span of the chief and I's careers, we have really evolved in the way that we understand how best to take care of people working as police officers or firefighters and EMS personnel, and the traumas that they experience. And so, you know, when we have a call for service or a situation, it may be a traffic crash, it may be, who knows what the call may be, but you know, there's some stuff, some baggage that our dispatchers, our firefighters, our EMS folks, our police officers take away from that. And we do what's called a critical incident stress debrief on those calls for service. And this is yet again a way where we train together, we work together, and we work through things after events together. And so we have our firefighters, our EMS folks, so folks from the fire department, the police department, the dispatch center, we're all together, and we're going through that stress debriefing as a team. And I think that's been super beneficial over the years, you know, where we all recognize that, the staff at the fire department, they have their lane of, you know, things that they're responsible to do. The police officers the same, but at the end of the day, we're all working towards a very, very similar mission.
Right.
And so we have a lot more in common than we don't. And I think that we all understand that. It's beneficial for everybody.
Good.
I mean, you're working towards the exact same.
That's
Not
right.
even similar. It's
Yeah.
to keep people safe.
Yeah, if you took a look at
It's
the
like-
mission statement at the fire department,
Yeah.
the mission statement at the police department, there's a lot of similarities in what our goals are in terms of what we're trying to provide to the community.
Right. Each of you tell me this. What is something that, what is a struggle that a young firefighter or a young police officer might have that people might not understand? I mean, take us inside of the mind of, you know, they're young, they've got a family, they're figuring stuff out, and, you know, Emmitt, you go first. What's
Well, I can think of a couple. One is just work-life balance. And we have a lot of young individuals at the fire department. For a number of years prior to the last few hirings, we had to have people work a lot of overtime. So to keep your family in focus and to make sure that that's important, and you know, we've always let them know that family has got to be number one. But to not get too, we want you involved in the fire department, but not too involved, because that can just, you know, build walls.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you take people that are young. You know, when I was 19 and I hired on, we ran about 400 calls a year, and we didn't have the ambulance. So we ran a lot of fire calls and rescues on the highway was about what we did. last year we ran 3,597 calls, and those are everything from suicides to drug overdoses to car crashes that are very traumatic, fire calls and so there's a lot of trauma, you know. So that would be one of the things I'm concerned about, is to keep track of their mental health. And like the chief said, those things can build up on you. You know, even in 45 years, you'd think, I've probably seen it all, right? I've seen a lot of things, and you try to let go of those with whatever it is, maybe having a conversation with a colleague or going to a stress debriefing and those things. You don't get rid of all that. So a person needs to figure out a way to get rid of that baggage. You know, talk to a counselor. We do really well as a crew to talk to each other. There's that informal debriefing that helps. But so I would say, you know, keep track of your family, keep track of your mental health.
Yeah. Gary, how about you? What's
Sure.
something-
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like I'm just going to ride the chief's coattails. No, I agree. And what I was thinking as he was sharing those thoughts with you is that it's the schedule. You know, when a lot of us, you know, in our community are celebrating, you know, holidays and things like that we just take for granted. You know, we have police officers and dispatchers and firefighters and our paramedics that nothing changes for them. You know,
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make any difference if it's Father's Day. It doesn't make any difference if it's, you know, the 4th of July. We have to have those spaces filled, right? In some regards, some of the holidays are busier for us.
Right.
And so that takes its toll on young people and young families. And they, I think a lot of times there's like, oh yeah, I'm ready. I can do, but it's like the actuality of realizing it's like, yep, you're working Christmas Eve. You know, it's hard. So I think that's one thing, the schedule, and I think that, you know, as the chief put it, the work-life balance, that's part of it, because it's, you know, sometimes, you know, when I first started in my career field, there weren't as many two-income families, but it's pretty uncommon now that you don't have, you know, domestic partners that both have jobs or careers. And,
You have to.
and yeah, right. We all know that. And so the schedule is challenging. You know, I mean, we have police officers and dispatchers who, you know, they getting days off with their significant other can be challenging, and that's hard on them. And like the chief was talking, but we understand now something that we call cumulative PTSD. So the little things, it's like we're good, you know, but what's happening, you know, in our police officers' day-to-day work, our firefighter EMS providers' day-to-day work, our dispatchers even, they're being exposed to things at a frequency and a rate over and over and over that normal human beings, we were not designed to be exposed to these things. Sometimes it's just the worst that humanity has to offer, and sometimes, especially if it's an ambulance call or it's not like it's anyone's fault. Maybe more so, you know, when we're talking about the police response. But you know, these are things that young people are probably seeing some things they haven't seen before, and over time that builds up. It's kind of like scar tissue, and so we understand that, and I think that's one of the challenges over time. It's like, because one of the things that the chief and I are working on day in and day out is recruitment and retention. How do we get people to want to be, you know, professionals in the public safety world? How do we get people to want to be firefighters and police officers and 911 dispatchers? And once they do decide they want to do that, how do we keep them?
Right.
And, you know, there's lots of things in our world right now outside of the public safety sector that, you know, people don't stay with jobs like they did, you know, 30, 40 years ago. Look it up. maybe we, yeah. But we need those folks. We need some folks to stick around, you know. But there's challenges that I think that we experience locally a level of support that there's a lot of places around our nation that your first responders are not experiencing and not enjoying. And that's not lost on us. You know, when people in our community express appreciation for our first responders, it means something. It really, really does. And we need that, because if we were dealing locally with some of the things that are happening around the nation in terms of just open disdain for first responders, I can tell you that we likely would have a difficult time accomplishing our mission, because we just wouldn't have people that want to do it.
Wow. So, yeah, one thing I do want to talk about before we quit here is the opioid, fentanyl, I mean, every Measure 110, I mean, all of that perfect storm. It's the EMS that really, I mean, all of the law enforcement was on the front of that. But at the end of the day, it's the EMS. I mean, that's part of the stress, I think, that you were talking about. I mean, first of all, give us a little peek into that the first responders are showing up and they're reviving those people, or they're not successfully reviving them. And is that getting any better?
I haven't looked at the numbers, but I can tell you that, well, especially over the term of my career, overdoses were very infrequent for the good portion of the first 20 years, 25 years of my career, like 3, 5, 6 a year if it was a bad year.
Yeah.
If I was to have to put a number on it, I would guess that our crews respond on 3 to 5 a week.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like it might be getting a little better. And when we respond, of course, the officers respond. They have Narcan with them. A majority of those revive with Narcan. It's getting to where they take more and more doses of Narcan to revive. Like I said, I think the number of calls for overdoses is decreasing slowly, but it's still significant. And those are some of those things also that weigh on people.
Right, yeah.
The natural, I won't say natural, but those accidents, those crashes that happen, things that are what we would consider accidents, are a little less difficult to deal with, especially for young people, than those things that are self-destructive. And those, suicides, drug overdoses, those are the things that get a person to questioning what they're doing.
Right.
And that's what I don't want to see, because everyone there makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell any stories on each other before you
I do have to tell you that
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay.
at one of our lunches, Gary had a birthday, so in our friendly ribbing,
Yeah.
brought him a chocolate donut with a cake on it, and he was pretty happy.
We were in one of our local restaurants, and he comes packing in this, and he wasn't being discreet at all. It's like, and here's a donut for and you guys know
Yeah.
I don't know, the
Yeah.
old thing, donuts and cops, right?
Right,
But
yeah, it's like,
long
yeah.
ago-
Ours is the lounge chair.
yeah, they got the lazy boys. you know.
Yeah.
I brought Dunkin' Donuts one time after he got me for disorderly conduct. I was being stupid.
Yeah.
This was when I was young.
Yeah.
And he was doing the career fair up there at EOU, and
Yeah.
I brought him a whole thing of donuts for that.
Yeah, but here's what I can tell you about most police officers that's been around for a while. Thank you. We love them. Here's the truth. You're going to say it anyway, so it's like, we like pastries. That's all there is to
That's
it.
right. You might have meant this as an insult, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You don't want to get me into stories, because we've had some back and forths over the years that have been just a blast. And, so that's part of what builds that camaraderie.
It's awesome.
So the LeGrand, let's talk about the police chief. They're looking for a police chief. They're interviewing, fire chief.
Yeah, because hang on here a second.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like,
not- yeah.
is
I
this
didn't
how
know
it
Gary was
breaks?
leaving.
I mean, the community's done with Chief Bell.
No, so they're actively trying to hire a fire chief.
Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, it seems like there's interviews
There
or
was
open.
2.
We did interviews yesterday.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
2
all right.
out of town people.
Yeah,
It's in the
okay.
city
I saw-
manager's
Yeah.
office right now. We're looking at making a decision.
So what's been the complication in them staying in the past? I'm just going to put it bluntly. Do you think? Were they?
I
is
can't
it-
give particulars, and
Right,
besides,
right.
I wasn't here when
Right,
those 2 were here.
right.
Sometimes it's a fit thing. Sometimes it's. I mean, it can be an array of different reasons.
right.
But and I I can't even tell you if they left on their own accord
Okay,
or
right.
those types of things. So,
But I think I would
we had
imagine.
the previous chief,
Yeah, go ahead.
Bruce, was here for 20 years.
Right.
So that's kind of unheard of to have a chief in a place for
Bruce
20
Weimer.
years. Bruce
Yeah.
Weimer.
Yeah, I mean, and he's one of our viewers. He watches all the time.
he's probably watching right now.
Yeah, and thank you, Bruce, for your service. Yeah, really appreciate it. But I would imagine part of it is the complication of hiring any professional. Whether it's a physician or a professor at EOU or whatever, is that it takes a certain breed of person to want to live rural and to want to be here. I mean, that's something that they got to want, and they want to have their family here, and they're committed to that. And
Yeah, so in broad figures or broad terms, some of it is if you're going to bring people from the outside area, LeGrand cannot afford to pay like a bigger metropolitan area. It's just not. It's not going to happen. So that's one of the issues. The remoteness is an issue with sometimes spouses or even the individual themselves.
Right.
If a person works in a large department, like I said, a lot of times they've done focused jobs, and so coming here and realizing that you have one group of 18 paid staff and a whole area full of volunteers. Some people haven't worked with volunteers, don't understand the ins and outs of how to make that system work, which works very well. We have volunteers that we rely on all the time.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah. But the but is that, but look around us. Not every position has elk that are 10 minutes from their doorstep, or whatever the case might be. Or and
I think that's it, Brent.
Quality life.
We anytime we're looking to fill it wouldn't make any difference if it's our parks department
right.
director, the fire chief, upon my departure from the police department. Hey, our city manager is retiring, and so we have that coming up later this year. We're, going to try to find the right person to fill that position. We do a lot in order to vet people out. Do they have the credentials? Do they have the experience? Are they the right fit for us as a community? But a big part of the equation also is, like the chief said, are we a good fit for that individual and their family? And I think sometimes people don't understand that it's like, look, we accept it and we're here because we want to be here for all the right reasons. We wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But, it's a couple hours, east or west, to get to the big shopping.
Right.
And does that work with people? And
Right.
I happen to really like the restaurants we have, but some people, they feel like the choices are not broad enough,
Yeah.
So it's just not a good fit for some people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that often it's not a fit for the spouse. I mean, that, whatever the case might be.
Or maybe their career field.
Right. Right, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's just lots of reasons.
well, thank you,
Thank you.
both of you, for your long-term service and the stability that you brought to the community. And, it's just, we just want to honor you. Thank you so much. You can't pay people enough for the things that you guys do. And I know that you don't do it just for the money. You do it for the opportunities to lead and the leadership and the community and the relationships that you build with people. And I just want to tell you how much you're appreciated. And
Thank you.
And Emmitt, how much you will be missed.
I appreciate
When's
that.
the official date?
Yeah.
It's
Is there an
May
official
30th
date?
is my last scheduled day to work.
Oh
Are you
my.
having a big party?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
You're,
big
you're
into
just
parties.
you're just gonna let
I get
that.
emotional.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I told him this doesn't mean that we're done with lunches.
44 years is a long time to do.
I just feel
one job.
incredibly blessed to be able to do this.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. Still today, I love going to work and work with fantastic people.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. All right. Well, hey, thank you guys.
thank you.
Love you being here. Just stay right there. We got just one more little thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And get us out of here. Yeah.
Let's do it. On this day, April 10th, it's only a short one today. I only got a couple of them. 1815, Mount Tambora in the Dutch East Indies experiences one of the most cataclysmic eruptions of all time, killing 71,000 people and causing a global volcanic winter. 1913 on this day, the New York Highlanders play the first MLB game as the New York Yankees. They lose to the Washington Senators 2-1 at Griffith Stadium. President Woodrow Wilson throws out the first pitch. 2019 on this day, the very first home delivery service by drone begins in Canterbury, Australia. That's crazy. And it was by a company called Wing, which is one of Google's
Distributors?
Google
Yeah.
owns them.
Yeah.
The number one song in America on this day, 1985, We Are the World, by the supergroup USA for Africa. The song was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. Mm-hmm. The quote of the day is in honor of the chiefs in the building, and it comes from Henry Hampton. What drives people to public service is a sense of possibility. If you haven't sensed that possibility, you don't get started the same way. You don't feel like you can have an impact. One more time. Henry Hampton says, what drives people to public service is a sense of possibility. If you haven't sensed that possibility, you don't get started in the same way. You don't feel like you can have an impact.
Good stuff.
That's all you got.
Hey, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Yep.
Thank you.
Next week.
Yep. We'll see you right here Tuesday.